Hi, this is Paul Thoroughgood with Western Winter Wheat Initiative. We're here at Richardson's Kelburn Farm near Winnipeg, Manitoba to talk about one of Prairie Canada's top net income producing crops over the past few years, winter wheat, to talk about risk of winter kill and how to do a proper spring assessment. For Prairie Canadian farmers, seeding a fall sown crop is a bit of an anomaly as compared to wheat producers throughout most of the US, where winter crops are the norm. Incidentally though, winter kill in Prairie Canada versus winter kill in Kansas is almost exactly the same, around 9%. It's early May here at Kelburn Farm, and spring seeding hasn't quite got rolling yet. This is the time of year when many inexperienced winter wheat growers want to make their final assessment as to whether or not their winter wheat has survived the winter. This is far too early, as the crop hasn't had adequate time to recover from the long cold winter. We encourage growers to wait at least halfway through spring seeding before they make their final determination on whether the crop has survived or not. While the ideal time to conduct a spring assessment is still halfway through spring seeding, many growers and agronomists like to conduct an early spring assessment just to get a better idea of how the winter wheat is fared for the winter to help them plan their spring seeding operations. There are two different methods that can be utilized, one being the bag test method and one the tray method. And while there are more detailed versions on the internet of how to conduct these trials, I'll go through each briefly with you today. The first is the bag test method. In this method, a Ziploc bag is filled with a wet paper towel and some plants are pulled from the field, like these ones here were done about a week ago, and placed on that wet paper towel. And you'll see that in this situation, these came from a portion of the field that had very little snow cover. The leaves died throughout the winter, and these ones are new growth. But a new green leaf doesn't necessarily mean that the crop has survived the winter. What you should be looking for, as you'll see on all of these, is new white root growth, which is the signal that the crop has survived the winter and it will be just fine. Similar to the bag test is the tray test. And in this one, a portion of a row is dug up and placed in a tray inside and allowed to grow for a week or so to determine if it has survived. And again, taking an individual plant, you're not looking for green leaves, you're looking for white roots. And as we rinse the soil off of this, that good clay is hard to get off. You'll again see one bright white root there in amongst the brown roots that grew last year, indicating that this crop has survived. Either of these methods can be utilized to help put growers' minds at ease and also to help with spring planning. Final determination of a spring assessment should occur halfway through spring seeding. There's two important reasons for this. First, it allows the crop to fully recover from a long winter. But secondly, and probably more importantly, is that it allows spring seeding to take place and gives some perspective to the grower and anyone who's advising them on how profitable a spring sown crop will be sown at the end of spring seeding versus what could be a mediocre winter wheat crop if it's not in perfect condition. One of the important things for agronomists and growers to keep in mind when they're doing a spring assessment of winter wheat is that it has a much higher ability to tiller and fill in thin spots than spring wheat does. For spring wheat, the minimum recommended plant density is 12 plants per foot of row, whereas winter wheat can be considered established with 7 plants per foot of row, and as few as 5 plants can make a profitable economic yield. Two important things for new winter wheat growers to keep in mind during the busy spring sowing season is looking after the needs of their winter wheat crop. First is looking after nitrogen fertility, as the crop takes up the majority of its needs by the 5-leaf stage. And second is controlling winter annuals so that they don't become a problem and require an earlier application of broadleaf product than what would be required for controlling spring annuals. In early May, when most farmers begin seeding, it's not unusual to see a very sparse winter wheat stand, sometimes with no green material above ground. This is why it's important that this is not the time to conduct your spring assessment. Approximately halfway through spring seeding, the plants have had time to recover adequately from cold winter temperatures, and green seed rows should appear throughout the field. I hope this video has provided you with some useful information in managing your winter wheat crop. In summary, I'd like to reiterate 3 points. First, that over the past few years, winter wheat has been one of the most profitable crops in Prairie Canada. Second, that winter wheat, grown in prairie Canada, has a similar risk of winter kill as the largest winter wheat growing state in the U.S., Kansas. And third, wait until you're halfway through spring seeding before you make any final decisions in managing your winter wheat crop. On behalf of the Western Winter Wheat Initiative, we wish you a safe and profitable farming season.